Welcome back to Uprising. I'm Sonali Kohatkar. You can now watch Uprising online at our YouTube channel at youtube.com/uprising with Sonali. Please do subscribe. President Obama made a formal request to Congress yesterday to authorize a 3-year military operation against Islamic State militants, citing the brutal actions of ISIS against populations in Iraq, Syria, and in Kurdish regions, and the various U.S. citizens who were captured and killed. Obama asked for a broad mandate to, quote, use the armed forces of the United States as the president determines to be necessary and appropriate. The proposed authorization did specify that it does not authorize, quote, enduring offensive ground operations. Just a day earlier, U.S. officials had reviewed photographic evidence and concluded that 26-year-old Kayla Mueller, held hostage by ISIS, had been killed. Mueller became the 4th U.S. citizen to be murdered by ISIS. She was captured while serving as an aid worker in Syria after volunteering in the West Bank with a Palestine-based international solidarity movement and with African migrants in Tel Aviv. My guest is Zunes. He's a professor of politics and international relations at the University of San Francisco, where he directs the program in Middle Eastern Studies. Welcome to Uprising, Stephen.
Good to be with you again.
Well, first on the issue of authorization for use of military force against ISIS, how do you explain what President Obama's goal is? Initially, he had cited Bush's use of executive power in the Iraq War. Now he's asking for permission months after he started this war.
Well, the original rationalization that he did not need a new authorization because of the Iraq War authorization back in 2002 and the post 9/11 authorization in 2001 was ridiculous. I mean, very few people took that seriously. And I think basically he came around to recognizing that given that this new war is going to take a while, it would be better to make it official and to get rid of any ambiguity. And given that it might not necessarily go so well, have somebody, namely Congress, to share the blame if it doesn't.
Now, the request for authorizing war is pretty open-ended. However, it does specify, quote, no enduring offensive ground operations. But it seems pretty broad in that the president determines anything that the president determines to be necessary and appropriate is, what it authorizes. And is that pretty typical of war authorizations to be so broad?
Well, the president is commander-in-chief, and given that the goals of this and the enemy that the United States is fighting is really unlike any before, they did make it a little clearer than they might otherwise do. Instead, in terms of giving that kind of executive power, it's quite troubling actually, because there's absolutely no geographic limit of where this war can be fought. It is good, of course, that he did, I think both because it's his own desire to keep the footprints on the ground pretty minimal, and also because he figured he needed that to get enough Democratic and libertarian-leaning Republican votes to get it passed. But it does leave open the use of special forces for hit-and-run operations, certainly search and rescue in case a pilot gets shot down. But ironically, some of the biggest disagreements coming out of Capitol Hill are from Republicans who say they should not have that clause at all, that the United States should essentially be able to make unlimited war. So it's kind of ironic that our great system of checks and balances is between a choice of war and more war.